meditating, your mind's clear. You're free of expectations.
Right.
So you're present.
Right. You're not imposing something upon another.
Absolutely. Absolutely not.
You
That's
are
correct.
seeing them for who they are, and you are accepting them for who they are. You're accepting the situation for what it is. And now, in that environment, love thrives. Love never thrives so I basically put it like this: where you have your mind, you cannot have love. And where you have love, you will not mind. I have a dog here who's trying to get in, so just give me
What kind of a dog is it? It sounds like a little one, Rohit.
It's a little one, yeah. Just a moment. He's like whining to get in. Come here. There he is.
Oh.
There you go. Say hi to everybody.
Dogs, like, I just want to love them.
Okay.
Oh.
What's the next thing now? Okay. So acceptance means that, just whenever you find yourself irritated by something, it could be as simple as stepping out and it's really hot or it's really cold. It could be that you didn't there's a big queue or there's a hold up on the freeway. Those are all moments for practicing acceptance. Isha says some really good things out here. She says, the person allows us to work on situations and to evolve. For example, communication issues, being afraid or shy to speak up, and to say what you really mean or want. Yes, you say you got to speak up and tell us about your thoughts. Thanks for writing them, but I'd love for you to share them here. Speak them. Coming back, so acceptance is huge in practice. It's not just a theory. It's not just
That's
a concept.
right.
Acceptance is, it really, I bring it down to everything. And you can test yourself moment to moment to moment. Whether you're whenever you watch yourself getting irritated or angry or even feeling hot or cold. Like I used to practice this walking out in the hot, when it was really hot in India. I'd go out for walks, 120 degrees, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna, this is my time, this is my spirit time. They say, why are you going out in the afternoon? Why don't you just go in the evening when it's cooler, or stay inside, it's air conditioned. This is my spiritual practice. I walk out in the hot blazing afternoon sun, and my work at that time would be to stop resisting the heat. Stop the resistance. Melt into it. Accept it. Allow it. It is what it is. And then from there, it would no longer be painful. It would no longer hurt. And I find the same thing with different pains that occur in the body. I find that with emotions. I find that with anything. You can apply this just about anywhere. But it basically means also, acceptance also means not resisting what is. Allowing things, allowing people, allowing situations to unfold in the way they are, and observing, so that in your observing now you're able to see a much bigger picture. When you see through the tunnel vision of your thoughts of how things should be, then you do not see the bigger picture of what is going on around you. You don't see where that other person is at. You do not see where you're at. You do not see what is in the best for everyone. You're stuck in your own little mind warp. Anyone want to share anything about that?
I have a question, actually. So you brought up sensations of the body, and I'm just curious, have you tried Vipassana meditation? Is that connected at all to to the Bhagavad Gita? I know we're now in Loving Soulfully, but
Yes,
just
yes.
curious.
And that's all right. Vipassana meditation comes from Buddhism. Buddhism comes from Hinduism. So they're all connected. The things that were talked about the yogic practices that were there in the Bhagavad Gita, those some of that was picked up by Buddha. Some of it he found his own way, right? So he comes from that same culture, except that he innovated and he came up with his own practices. But they all have the same roots. Even Christianity has its roots in Hinduism, or Hinduism is actually a false word. There was no such thing as Hindu. There was the Vedas, which were the books, and Sanatan means the eternal dharma, Sanatan dharma. That was the path, and that was what all these have come out. They've all been innovations that have come out of that, including everything you're reading about right now in the spiritual, literature that you come across today. It all derives from India,
Mm.
and or some of it is also from China. What is in China also seemed to derive from here, because Buddhism actually is what went to China, and then Buddhism is but then took its own flavor over there. So
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off
yeah.
topic.
Where we talked of acceptance right now. So acceptance, and let's go deeper now. The actual process of living by acceptance. Let's go into examples. Does anyone want to kind of bring up what kind of situations you get triggered by, or that bother you? And then let's look at it from the lens of acceptance. Let's see what would happen if you applied acceptance to that. Let's talk about in a relationship, because that's like Lamar said, that's the place where we all get triggered the most. That relationship could be with a parent, it could be with your dog, it could be with a friend, it could be with a partner, a lover, a husband, wife, whatever. Bring up a situation where you get triggered, and let's apply the lens of acceptance to that. See what happens. Let someone who's not been talking come in for a minute. I want to see if there's anyone who would like to. There's some folks who might be a little shy, so I want to make sure they come in, or they just might think they need to say something really, really smart, but you don't need to be smart. You can just share with us your life experience, and that's smart enough. So trying to open it up for a few more people to participate. If you feel you'd like to, I'd love for you to come in. And I'm going to point it out. That's Isa, Valerie, Swati. This is your moment. All right. You don't have to. Anyone else?
Okay,
No?
I'm just gonna go for it.
All right.
I was trying not to talk too much.
Yeah, I just wanted to give them a chance, but all right, come back. Yeah.
So I had a moment today where, I mean, I brought up statistics last week, and I'm just gonna bring it up again today.
Okay.
So I was watching a Zoom recording. It was like 2 hours long, and first off, the teacher thought she was sharing her screen where the whiteboard was, but she wasn't the entire time. So I'm just like hearing her talk about how she's writing these things down for like 2 hours. And I'm like, maybe at some point it'll actually work. It didn't. And also throughout that, other students are asking questions about things that she went over like 5 separate times. And I'm just like, why am I watching this right now? I can't even see what she's writing. And people are just asking the same thing over and over again. It was like, it's very frustrating.
Yep. So now, how could you have brought acceptance into that?
I could have just clicked off.
That would be rejection, not acceptance.
Okay.
If you wanted to bring in acceptance. Now, look, it may not actually have been worthwhile for you to keep hanging on there.
Yeah, but the thing is, I I kind of needed to, because I needed to see if there was going to be something throughout it that I did need, because it was supposed to be a review for the test, right? So in my mind, I was like, there could be one golden nugget here that would make me miss a question on the test, right?
Okay.
So how I could have brought in acceptance, maybe just through the breath and through realizing it's something that I literally could not change. So what's the point in getting stuck on it when that's just what was happening? It was a pre-recorded thing. It's not like I could tell the teacher, hey, like turn on your share screen. So yeah, recognizing that it just is what it is. It's out of my control.
Yeah, it's out of your control. And you know, and one doesn't have to go there right away. You could have tried communicating to that teacher, saying that, hey, this is what's happening, you know, but then let's say the teacher was busy and didn't notice it, right? Which can also happen. And at that point, you're left with, I need to be here still because I might pick up something. That's the agenda. That's the reason I came here.
Yeah.
And so you drop your own resistance. Now let's take it into an actual relationship scenario. Anybody found yourself in a relationship getting triggered, getting upset, getting hurt, getting angry, getting scared?
Yes.
Back. Okay.
Um, so I messaged him that I need time, and I noticed he doesn't really like it, even though he's not really saying it. So he's like, oh, yes, I'll find time to do other stuff, talk to other people, which is fine. And I spoke to him again, and so I noticed he's different, you know.
Mhm.
So like sentences are different.
He's different than you are.
No, his response changed.
Ah, okay.
So his sentences are different, emoticons are different. So
He's different.
so I'm noticing he doesn't really like it. So I decided today that I would ask him if what he feels, you know.
Mhm.
So that's one of the examples.
Okay.
But I think it's I just think it's very interesting, because when you say that sometimes people um, are communicating, they are, but they're not saying everything. And this is what I noticed. Like, yeah, you know, he's just talking and everything, and but it's like not really complete. And I feel he's not really saying exactly how he feels. But I noticed it in the emoticons, definitely, and also in the way he structures sentences,
Mhm.
a very different feeling, because we always have a narrative when someone's expressing themselves. So that's what I noticed.
Mm.
And so I'm going to wait and see what he answers me later on. So that's going
Okay.
on.
So, you know, as you notice things, see, the more you are not trying to put your own agenda on things, the more you will notice.
Mm-hmm.
What does acceptance means? That life is as it is, right? People are as they are.
Mm-hmm.
If you take your idea of how they should be and put it on them, then you will not see them as they are. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, step back, let go your ideas of how he should behave, and then find out how, in fact, he is behaving. And then ask him if there's a reason for that. Does he, you know, what's his thinking about that? Does he feel that he cannot communicate? What would it take for him to communicate, for him to really express where he's at, right? Maybe he feels scared. Maybe he feels that you'll not care about him if he does. Maybe he learned that as a child. So you need to probe and find out, oh, so what, you know, what would happen if you did communicate with me?
what you
And
really feel. Yes, I feel
right,
he's kind of hiding or
it's hiding.
concealing.
Correct. So
Mhm.
the idea is it brings you to a place of curiosity. What is acceptance? Acceptance is just the beginning. Acceptance is not the end. Acceptance is the beginning, and acceptance leads you to curiosity. Curiosity leads you down into a place where you begin to see the person for who they are. So, vulnerability.
Mhm.
And from vulnerability, then the heart opens. And that's where connection happens. And as the connection happens, then from there, the love begins to flow. So, if I would bring it down into the steps, you start with acceptance.
Mhm.
Put this down in your in the chat here. Acceptance, then that leads to curiosity, which then leads to vulnerability, which then leads to connection, and which opens the heart to love, which allows the love to flow through your heart, actually. Allowing love to flow through you. You may want to write this down or copy paste it.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. Check the chat. I've written it down over there for those of you that didn't get to write it down. Copy paste it, because once we end the meetup, then it's gone. So let's go over the stages again. Acceptance leads to curiosity. Are you clear with this part of it? Right? Why? Because now I'm not imposing my ideas on you. I'm looking at you for who you are. Once I look at you for who you are, then what happens? Can anyone say?
I get interested. I get curious.
Right. Now you're observing them for who they are. Right? Not for who you are, but for who they are, actually. You're stepping out of your mind and your ideas and your stuff that you're trying to put on them. You're trying to see them for who they are. So now from curiosity, we go to, as they begin to talk about who they are and what they're feeling and what they're going on, you're inviting an atmosphere of vulnerability. And what does that vulnerability do now? It deepens the connection. Anyone you've been vulnerable with, you'll notice the connect, you drop into your heart. You have to. Because in vulnerability, you're no longer wearing the mask. You're no longer pretending to be something. You're now actually stepping in to the place of the heart. You're willing to be flawed. You're willing to be real. You're willing to be authentic. In that place, the heart opens up and connection happens. And when that connection happens, love flows. Now reverse this process and watch what happens. Like reverse it, I mean, let's not do this. Let's not have vulnerability. Let's not have curiosity. Let's not have um, acceptance. And then what do you have?
No connection.
Yeah. And what does that lead to?
War.
Yeah, that's a simple word for it. For sure. Right? War, the battles of relationships, all around this. So if you've ever been in a fight in a relationship, that's where it's coming from. Your ego is wanting to be right. It's wanting to assume, to assert its idea of how things should be upon another. Please correct me if you have another insight. I'm learning all the time, so I will hear you. And by the way, this whole connection right now that I just was just made up in this moment. It didn't come out of some fancy book. It's right here, right now, in front of you.
Rohit, can I ask you a personal question?
Mhm.
Do you feel that, I was going to use the word mastered, but I'm not going to say that. Do you feel that you are able to consistently practice this within your relationship?
I'm able to practice this, I would say, most of the time. And then there are moments where I don't. There are moments I lose it. And then,
Mm.
but the difference is this, because I'm aware of what I'm doing and where I've gone on the other side, I can catch myself, stop myself right there, course correct, and come right back on. So I think anyone who says that they're able to do it all the time, I would be very suspicious, because the human mind is such that it will from time to time trip you up. I've gotten tripped up. I still get tripped up. But what I can tell you with absolute honesty is this, that this gets better and better and better. And where I've been able to arrive with it is the place where I see I have no. Earlier, I used to be so defensive. No, I didn't do that. I did. A full argument would go on. Now I've been practicing for the last many years now what I call undefended love. No defense. The moment you mess up, you own it. The moment you do something that is now, that is, even if you may think you did it right, but it's not right with the other person, that's a mess up. There's no, the whole concept of right and wrong needs to be disassembled. But the ego will go there because that's what it does. My ego will go there. It wants to go there. I have to stop it. And there will be those moments in which I don't stop it fast enough, or it slips away. And then I have to, like, sorry, I messed up. I expected something that in fact was not there. That was not part of your reality.
So, what does that look like though when like you don't feel you've done something wrong, but they think you have? Do you say do you just say I'm sorry? Do you say I'm sorry that that wasn't right with you? Like, how do you go about that? I don't know if that's too personal or too specific, but
Nothing's too personal, no problem.
okay.
The old way would have been to try and explain myself. The old way would have been to try and justify my actions, to try and show where my intention was not that. I was not intending to hurt you. I was not trying to do something. In fact, I was trying to do this and that and the other. And first instinct is to do that always. First instinct is to go there right away. And even though the first sentence might come out that way, I now course correct, like right as soon as possible, and say, wait a minute, let me hear what you've got to say. Why did it bother you? What was in there that was, so I've learned that my ego's defenses do not serve my relationship. My ego's defenses are not, um, how do you say, they're not conducive to love. And I need to drop them. I need to drop them as soon as possible. Because if I don't, then the ensuing thing will simply be a battle of egos. The other person, my partner, has got triggered by something, has got upset by something, didn't like something. That's all that matters. It's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's not about whether I intended to or I didn't intend to. It has nothing to do with it. Something's got triggered. And like Lamar said, That's their experience for them to take responsibility for, no doubt. But me, as the person who supposedly brought that about, I'm going to take my responsibility.
But if we're upset by something, isn't that ego as well?
Yeah, of course. I'm saying that so there's two people in here in this
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
right? The one is getting upset. The other one is the one who supposedly was was the one that did the thing that got you to be upset, right? Both have to take responsibility for their actions.
Mm.
And on the other hand, there may be an agreement, I want you to trigger me. A more conscious relationship would say, no, 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 be yourself. I'm okay. My trigger is my own. If it comes up, I will deal with it. Ah, that's exciting. That level of self-awareness is very rare and hard to find. You say it, but when you actually get down to it, it's a whole different game. You know that your upset is your own, but when you're upset, you're in the you're captivated. Your mind has captured you. I'll give you a practical example of my own folly. I have a very good friend who we were supposed to go out for, I think it was a movie or something like that, and we meet once in a while and make some plans. No, not a relationship, but a friend. Okay, so I've come to pick her up, and we're going to this movie, and she's not replying to calls or texts or anything. Would have to park and walk and come there, and there's no parking available in the parking area. I would have to go far away and park. I'm getting upset. This is the time we're supposed to be there. My mind is like going on and on. You know what? She thinks that I'm just there as her chauffeur. She thinks that I'm just there. The mind is telling me all this now. Um, that she's using you and this and that and the other. It's going on and on and on. I'm getting increasingly upset. She walks in about 15 minutes past the time that we're supposed to meet. I'm like, what happened? We're getting late. And I start off telling, you're just taking advantage of the fact that, I'm here to pick you up and take you there. You should have just come on your own. She looks at me and says, I'm so sorry. I actually left my phone outside the bathroom and I lost all track of time. And I didn't realize, I didn't hear the calls. It was somehow on silent, which is, I know these things happen. I'm guilty of the same stuff. And I said, oh my God, thank you for sharing that. You just burst my bubble. My mind took me out by giving me this whole story of how I'm being used and exploited and taken advantage of, and I'm not her chauffeur, and blah, and blah, and blah, and had me raging internally for 15 minutes while I was waiting here. And instead, it was just normal human stuff that all of us do, including me. I just cracked up, like, damn, that was good. Can you stop and pause and laugh at yourself? I'm finding it to be the most delicious thing I can do. Being able to watch my mind in its reaction. It doesn't happen that often. Now that it knows that I'm up, I know it's game. It doesn't happen that often. It's very rare, in fact. But it's very delicious to be able to watch it. Really, like if you can laugh at yourself like that, it's taken me a long time to get there. But I can tell you this, it is beautiful. Anyone else care to share?
So David asked in the chat, what if she was lying to you?
Maybe she was, and who cares? I don't care. What I'm concerned with is the fact that my mind made this shit up. I'm concerned with that. And the way it did it was brilliant. Right? So to me, that's what matters. I'm here to bust this. I'm here to defeat its tricks. I want to catch it. I want to catch it all the time. I tell couples when they come to me and I say, you need to realize the two of you are the couple. Your minds are not. Your minds will come and interfere and they will try to break you up. You've got to understand you're one team. Your minds are the opposite side of that. And so when you've got something coming up where you're upset, you got to tell each other, my mind is telling me XYZ. Is it true? Just that simple act will diffuse your conflict right away. My mind is telling me this. Is it true?
I appreciate the fact that you stayed out of anger and you didn't hand over your power to her.
I did get angry though. I
Well,
spent about 30 seconds being angry. And then when I heard the first response, I realized how foolish I'd been. Anyone else want to share something that you've experienced where your mind went and the stories it made up, and then you were able to, maybe you were able to catch it, or maybe you'd like us to be able to help you catch it.
Well, back to your experience. What I'm seeing is that step that we glossed over is that you were willing to share what you were sensing, even though you knew it was. I mean, it's certainly not your ego, because the ego puts you in a false state and everybody gets excited,
Mhm.
But you said, hey, this was my experience. And
Right.
then your partner has the opportunity then to do whatever they're going to do. But
Right.
the freedom lies in the step that you took, in my mind, Rohit, is when you caught yourself doing this and you made a statement about that, where you were with that.
Right.
That's big. That's
Yeah.
very big.
Thank you. I tell you, this is so very important that you do not treat your mind like your friend. Okay? Treat your mind like an outsider, and it needs to be checked. It needs to be examined. There was someone who said something, the unexamined mind, the cause of all our traumas and our suffering comes from the unexamined mind. When you start to examine your mind and the stuff that it's doing for its own needs, for its own purposes, because it
Yeah.
wants to prove itself, it wants to be right, it thinks that, what it thinks is correct. I say it's like a computer, a self-validating computer. It's got a certain program in its mind, 2 plus 2 is 5, and now it wants to keep proving that 2 plus 2 is 5. And if you tell it 2 plus 2 is 4, it's like throws a hissy fit. Like, oh, can't be 4. It has to be 5.
Yeah.
That's all that's happening. So I've learned my mind needs to be kept in check. And any way that I can do that, I can get my partner, it's a friend, it's anyone who can help me catch it. They're my ally. And I have to ask the right questions. It's not that they may not even be aware. I have to pose it to them like, I was thinking this. I don't know if it's true. And then I'll find out 9 out of 10 times it isn't. Or maybe I had a certain intuition of something and maybe there was more to it. Fair enough. I'd rather find out and have the facts clear than make up stories.
That's big.
Right?
That's really big, Rohit. I can
Once
see
you
that's
realize the
big.
stories, once you realize the stories that your mind makes up and you start catching it at those stories, and when you start challenging those stories, you'll realize so much of what you're thinking is a story. It is not
That's
truth,
right.
right? So let's say
Yes.
your mind says that you're not good enough. Really? Good enough according to whom? Who says what is good enough? This is how you challenge it, right? According to whom? Who's going to decide good enough or not good enough? Like, by what criteria of mind are you going to judge that? Now it becomes quiet. So I find that the more you watch it, the more you challenge it, the more you put it on the spot, and the less you believe it, the more you will have a free mind. The more you will be free from its power and control over you. And now the heart can open. Now love can flow. It's much easier. Ooh, good stuff. Anything you'd like to share with us, Swati? Somehow you came up on the screen. There must be a reason.
No. So I was, you mentioned about not making assumptions, and that took me to something I'd read. There's this beautiful book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and
Right?
one of the agreements is do not make assumptions. Yeah.
Yeah. Easier said than done, because your mind is going to constantly be making up assumptions.
Yeah. So I was just thinking I need to revisit that book. It's been a long time since I've read it, and it has such beautiful messages. Well, one of them was don't make assumptions. Yeah.
Right. Very good. Thanks for connecting that. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. Making assumptions, making up stories, um, projecting things into the future, what might happen. Assumptions is a big word, by the way. There's so many different
very big word.
nuances to it.
Can you
But,
dive deeper into it? I know we don't have the time, but
but I will. I'll go into it in a few minutes. Whether
Yeah.
it's assumptions about the present, about the past, or about the future, what you call anxiety is assumptions about the future.
Future.
What you call trauma is assumptions about the past.
Past.
And what you call like upsets, that your normal day-to-day stuff, there's a lot of assumption in there. The moment you stop and you actually look at the other person's perspective and you start to understand what they're going through and what's going on in their life or their situation, everything shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why communication is so important. Communication is not about, being, people say it's about being heard. It's really about listening to another side, another perspective, because the mind wants to get locked onto its perspective and it wants that to be true. So when you can shift out of one perspective and have two or three perspectives from which to look at something, you're going to see it very differently. You're no longer going to be stuck in your tunnel vision, which is the cause of all the upsets
And I
and
feel
hurt.
like this goes back to becoming nothing allows you to become everything.
Yes. Thank you. I love it. I love how you got the connection. Beautiful. That is about becoming nothing, is also about humility. That's also about vulnerability. You see, when you become nothing, that is humility. I no longer wish to prove that I'm right. I no longer wish to tell you that that you didn't do it right, didn't you were wrong or something. I don't wish to prove. I have no point I want to make. You're welcome to be right. Then where's the argument? Where's the fight when you do that? And so somebody once told me, he says, no, you're just using that as a ploy to placate the other person and stop the fight. I said, no, there's a deeper truth to it. It's not just that this is a way to diffuse an argument. The truth is this: I really know nothing. If you do not know this yet about yourself, that you're a fool, that you know nothing, then you haven't yet learned anything. Socrates said, to know that you do not know is the greatest step to knowledge. So you haven't come to that place of openness, that place of really where you realize, I'm foolish, I don't know anything. when you embrace that, I am nothing, like you said, Ariel, then everything opens up to you. For the ego, you're right. You would be right in saying that, to say that would be devastating to the ego. It absolutely is devastating for the ego. The ego cannot handle that. I'm nothing, I'm a fool, I'm flawed, I'm messed up. Oh, no, no. It will just take that and use it against you. But when you're able to take that and see it from a spiritual perspective, from the soul's perspective, then for the soul, this is gold. Humility, or now the word that people use is vulnerability, really is the place that opens the heart. Anyone have any last questions about that before we wind up?
Thank you.
Become fluid like water when it comes to all these conflicts and agreements, when it comes to the world, when it comes to the influence of the world. Become fluid like water, like as like the air. Become like the air. When there is no resistance to what is going on. So people say, oh, these bad things are happening in the world. Okay, they are. And whatever meaning I give it is meaning I'm giving it. But if nothing has any meaning other than the meaning you give it, basically I'm making things up. Or as the more colorful way to say that is, we're making shit up all the time. So if you want to stop being unhappy, stop making shit up. That's all the assumptions, and that's all of that stuff, stories, everything. Okay, guys, I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful time. Enjoy being you. Take care. Lots of love.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you,
I appreciate
Rohit.
it.
Welcome. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Blessings.
And by the way,
Bye.
I just put a song in the chat that you just reminded me of with what you were just saying about being like water. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'll check it out. I'll
Okay,
listen to it.
cool.
Take
Have
care.
a good night, everyone.
Night. Bye.
Bye.